sentimental moments. Small changes have lasting ripples. This week, been focusing on hypnosis. And so far, talked about all the myths of hypnosis. And then the second episode was about what is hypnosis and identified it as the theta brain state, which is a normal brain state. And today I'm going to talk about more about theta and hypnosis in accidental hypnosis and the creation of trauma. So to understand this, first start with how our brain likes to associate things. Ooh, it loves to associate. As you say salt, what's the first word that comes to mind? Pepper. Or day, night, that sort of thing. So each one of us, now, if somebody said, I said day and they said time, okay, it's depending on each person because individually we make associations. We can associate mom with love, mom with criticism, these sorts of things. So we can say love, and that can be associated with abuse. So, it's association, but how does that come to be? If you walk into the kitchen and you see a sink and a fridge and a stove with a countertop, you become able to associate those items. So if you see a stove, you're like, oh, that's part of a kitchen. You see a sink, oh, that's a kitchen sink. So our brain associates. Very helpful. Very, very helpful. That's how we memorize. It's how we put things in together and we're able to recall things. Yeah, everything. Our brain associates. It loves to do this. It's one of its jobs. Yeah. If you were to be able to talk to a gazelle, we can't, but let's say you can. You ask a gazelle, hey, Mr. Gazelle, who is your predators? You'd ask him, he'd be able to identify them. Cheetahs or lions and tigers and bears, oh my, it's going to be able to identify them. It knows what to do in the minute it sees it and it's done. It's already instinctual. It's wired in the cells. Humans don't have that wiring. And so our brain uses association as to say this with this equals bad. Now we do have some, but generally speaking, we do not. So our brain uses these associations as a means by which to identify a threat. So very useful, helps us to identify the world around us. And it's also very helpful to know that, oh, this situation, this thing is associated with this other thing, which is bad and threatful. So if this thing appears, we know to go, oh, I'm leaving, exit stage left. Or panic, so to speak. Now, we also know that in our theta brain state, it's a state of brain, it's a state of mind in which information is just goes right through and is learned immediately. And so if we're in a theta brain state, whatever we hear, see, experience, feel, sense, etc., goes in as fact, quickly associated, quickly assimilated, and it's known. Helpful when it's a therapist saying something along the lines of, whenever you're in a testing situation, you feel comfortable and relaxed, and seeing the test causes you to relax, be at ease and comfortable. Great. Get rid of that test anxiety. Whatever association with anxiety and tests, we want to break it and get rid of it. Useful. Now, there's a time when it's not, and we call it accidental hypnosis. And accidental hypnosis can lead to trauma responses, which is why I use hypnosis as a #1 treatment for trauma responses. It's this reason why healthcare workers are trained to not tell somebody, hey, man, you're dying. We don't typically do that. They're like, hold on, kind of hang in there, all these encouraging words. Why? Because maybe they don't understand that the person in front of them is in a theta brain state because they're, in shock. And so they don't know that. They just know that they're in shock. And the last thing you want to tell a person in shock is, man, you're dying. We can go into theta in many ways. One, our circadian rhythm. Two, by the use of a hypnotist. And a third way is in sudden shock and shock. When we go into shock, boom, we're in theta. We're just remembering it because our brain wants to remember all these things so that if we're so we can survive, and then we can remember it. So the next time we know how to survive that situation. Okay, so now is it automatic that if you're in a stressful situation, that whatever happens is going to be this accidental hypnosis that results in trauma? No. Okay, what do I mean? Okay, I'm going to give you an example to kind of clarify this because I love examples. Okay, so for example, let's say you're driving down the road, boop, 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 and you're driving and you see, and out of the corner of your eye, you see a car, and you're like, that car is not slowing down. And in fact, I'm moving over. And even though you start taking evasive actions, the car kind of clips you and goes on. Now your heart's pumping because you're like, yeah, and you're like, oh crap. Not likely in shock. Not likely. The other condition is confusion. So we need shock and we need confusion. Like, what? Okay, so let's say you're driving down the road and you don't see a car because there's some trees and stuff, and you don't see it, and you're just do 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 do, and then bam, you get hit. Whoa! Oh my God, shocking. So now we're shocked, we're in shock, and we're confused, like, what the heck just happened? And so at that moment, bam, we're in theta. And anything that happens thereafter can be remembered completely. I had a truck driver one time who was involved. And in fact, it was interesting because he did see it coming. He was a truck and he was heading up and he saw this truck and he was like, that truck's not slowing down, but he's a truck. So it's hard. So he started to shut it down and make, evasive maneuvers, and that truck hit him, boom, and knocked him out. And when he came to, he was confused. So, okay, confusion was number one. And then the next thing, is he could smell fuel and he could smell smoke. Shock. So shock and confusion. The truck had caught on fire and he was lucky to get out. He went into an accidental state of hypnosis. And at that point, all the details, everything about that, the smells, etc., just went in as fact. So he was a truck driver. So this accidental state of hypnosis ended up causing a lot of issues because the smell of fuel was reminded of the accident. Smell of smoke, reminded of the accident. Seeing a fire, reminded of the accident. So you can say some of this was generalized because even a fire in a fireplace reminded them of this accident. So a lot of these things started to remind him. And so he was having kind of flashbacks and all sorts of fun stuff that comes with things that we identify in my biz as PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, or acute stress disorder. And it's basically just accidental hypnosis. But the problem is it just goes in as fact. Boom, it's back there. It's in that mind. And the brain is busily associating sounds, smells, sights, feelings, all of these things, associating completely and locking them all up and saying, these equal danger, bad. So anytime that a person is reminded of any of these, boom, the association of fear comes back, and then off they go with a panic attack or a terrible anxiety. And it's very difficult if somebody is having this terrible anxiety and needs to get in the truck to continue to do their job. So from rational living therapy, accidental hypnosis is the reason why we have trauma responses. So if accidental hypnosis is the cause, doesn't it stand to reason that actual hypnosis then can reverse that? And that's exactly what it does. And that's one of the reasons why I use it. It works to reverse trauma. And I'm going to talk a lot about that in the next episode. So stay tuned. And if you have not seen the other episodes, you can check out my YouTube channel or morejoyfullife.com mental moments. Thank you.